Dragonfly and her friends had always lived on the ground, where they explored ferns, twigs, and banks of streams. But sometimes she wished she could reach the clouds, for the most special place was the sky, and visiting it was her dream. One day, Dragonfly came across her friend Silverfish, and he asked what was on her mind.
I guess I could tell you, if time permits.
She then told him her dream to visit the sky. Silverfish looked at her, visibly perplexed, but she insisted.
The sky is so magical.
Nevertheless, Silverfish was unimpressed. He thought such a dream was completely impractical.
There's no need to visit the sky.
Dragonfly frowned.
Like me, you have 6 legs to run around to your heart's content. Everything you'll ever need is here on the ground. You should be satisfied 100%.
Dragonfly knew she didn't need to visit the sky, but she still wanted to, so she paid a visit to her friend Springtail. She wanted to know their point of view. Her dream of visiting the sky, would it actually fail? Springtail revealed that they had seen the sky because they have a tail-like feature that works like a spring. But Dragonfly couldn't hop no matter how hard she tried. She didn't have the spring, which was very disappointing. And even if she could hop, she'd only get a few inches high. That wasn't enough to get a good look at the sky. Dragonfly could no longer bear this frustration, so she booked a flight to the tropics for a relaxing vacation. During the flight, Dragonfly couldn't help but contemplate how it was possible for a plane to fly to its destination. Luckily, a knowledgeable sea turtle was nearby to educate and offer a simple explanation.
It's the shape of airplane wings that makes them so awesome. It allows air to move faster on top than on the bottom. This difference in air pressure is what generates lift. As a matter of fact, the same mechanism allows me to swim. The particular shape and position of my flippers cause the water pressure on each side to differ. Like with planes, the pressure on top is smaller, so it's essentially like I'm flying underwater.
Wow, thank you for all that great information. The only problem is,
Dragonfly sighed.
Without flippers, I'd have to use my imagination to achieve any type of flight.
When Dragonfly landed, she came across a frog who was different from the ones she had seen at home. She noticed that this tropical frog had a lot of webbing between each of his fingers and toes. Frog jumped up to 50 feet between neighboring trees, the extra webbing acting like the frog's parachute. This way, Frog could execute a technique to retreat in case a predator like a snake appeared out of the blue. Dragonfly looked at her limbs in discontent, for she didn't have extra skin to slow her descent. She would never feel such a graceful sky experience. If she jumped, she would fall, which would be deleterious. Fatigued, Dragonfly arrived home that night and met a flying squirrel who'd experienced the sky.
I have flaps between my hands and feet. They help me glide up to 300 feet between trees.
Wow, it's just as if you're paragliding.
Exactly.
That skill is truly mesmerizing.
Suddenly, an owl and a bat flew over.
If you want to reach the sky, we can get closer.
Gliding is nice, but we can actually fly because we've created wings from our arms.
That's why we're capable of true flight. Having wings really works like a charm.
Wings, of course, that's what I need. But alas, my arms, they are far too weak. They're much too thin to support such wings. I'm going to leave. This disappointment really stings.
Dragonfly returned to her habitat by the edge of a stream.
I wish I could fly. Will I ever achieve my dream?
She had discovered many ways to experience the sky, but she never quite had the appropriate anatomy. Upon hearing Dragonfly's moping, a fish stopped by and explained,
"We all have special features, you see. For example, I live underwater, and gills help me breathe effortlessly. They absorb oxygen, and not to mention, they're quite light and feathery."
Gills? Hey, that reminds me of something I learned in history. My ancestors were aquatic and had gills additionally. In fact, I was wondering about these tiny frills in my thoracic segments.
Fish had a look and exclaimed,
Those are indeed gill remnants.
Well, if I no longer need these, maybe I could stretch them out.
And if you stretched them long enough, you'd create wings without a doubt.
Dragonfly started adjusting her residual gills, hoping they would adapt. The following day, Dragonfly was thrilled to find wings attached to her back. Now Dragonfly could fly as high as she pleased. She'd never smiled brighter, for her dream was achieved. At first, all the other insects felt some resentment, but Dragonfly showed them how to change their gill remnants. Soon, the sky was filled with bees, wasps, and other insects. Dragonfly was beyond elated.
Well, that was quite the success.
In actuality, insects were the first animals to evolve flight. Hundreds of millions of years ago, insect wings likely evolved in part from ancestral gill appendages, and dragonflies were some of the very first insects to take flight. Now, as we have seen, there are many different ways for animals to jump, parachute, glide, and fly. These developments across many taxa serve as an excellent example of convergent evolution.